is everything. It's always been about that. It's about not only discovering new places and seeing new things, it really is all about doing what you want when you want. And in freedom, also, you live a life that so just flows. In freedom, this space right here, we feel happy, we feel excited. But right over there, in this space, this is a prison. What? A prison? That's right, guys. Can you see it in your mind's eye? It's a cell. There's 4 walls. There's bars. We all have our definition of a prison. For me, is being a prisoner of your mind. In this space, my friends, what lives is not only frustration, anger, depression, but so much negativity. This is my story about breaking free from this prison and always trying to go towards the freedom. But first, let me take you back. Let's go to 2011. Now, 2011 is also the year where Gangnam Style came out, yeah? But it's also a year of complete changes in my life. I mean, I left my corporate job, I met the love of my life, Dennis, and together we decided to go on an awesome, epic adventure to the land of Kimchi, South Korea. That's right, we told ourselves, let's go become English teachers. And we found this contract, it felt too good to be true. We were so excited, and our expectations, they weren't here, they were here. So, long story short, we packed all our bags and we went to South Korea. And like I said, I was so excited. But as soon as we arrived, all those expectations I was telling you about, they didn't really live up to what we were hoping. I mean, hustling, bustling city of Incheon was actually a small little town. And our big apartment that they promised was a shoebox. That was the beginning of all these little letdowns that started accumulating. I also expected a lot of support. I mean, I don't speak Korean. I don't. So I thought, okay, I'll go teach English, and there's probably gonna be someone assisting me. There wasn't. I was thrown in a class with kindergarten kids who couldn't speak English, and I couldn't speak Korean, but you know what? I made the best of it. So, first week, I survived the first week. The second week, and then it started going downhill. But you know what, part of my story, there are 3 key players. The first key player I should tell you were the owners of the school, Mr. and Mrs. Kim. I mean, they were hard, they were bosses, they were just trying to get their business to thrive, right? But they just were so, I just started having so much resentment towards them because they kept giving us all this stuff that wasn't part of the contract. And then the second key player part of my story is Teacher Claire. Now, Teacher Claire, we just couldn't communicate. Poor Teacher Claire and I, when we would communicate, it just turned out to be an argument. It was just always arguing with her. And Teacher Claire just kept giving more assignments, which I took, but I had no idea how to teach these kids who we couldn't communicate either. And last but not least, probably the worst of these key players was this stunning, she was a supermodel, this beautiful teacher called Jenny. Now, Jenny, I haven't had a lot of people who were triggers in my life, but Jenny was a trigger. I don't know why. I felt so insecure around her. She was beautiful, and I think I was jealous. But here's why I was jealous. I thought in my head that my husband, now husband Dennis, was attracted to her. And here's the thing, guys. This is what happened. I started having all these stories in my head, and I was believing these thoughts, which, guess which space that was? It was right here in the prison, right? Becoming a prisoner of your mind. So as the weeks kept going, these weeks became months, and I remember 6 months in, I was a completely different person when I started. I mean, I was miserable. I went through life just unhappy, dreading going to school. You know what, if we have to put a word to it, I was depressed. I didn't want to do anything. When I was time off, I would just go home and sleep. I gained so much weight. I mean, the only thing that made me happy was ice cream, really. And here's another thing. During this period, I just wanted to quit, but I kept thinking, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. But it was just getting worse and worse and worse. In my head, The stories I was creating was that everyone was toxic. It was all them. It was the stories. So I want to admit something I'm not really proud of, but you know what? Let me share this with you. The crash down. It all came crashing down this 1 week. We were probably at month 7 or 8. I had just survived 7, 8 months. I was miserable, nightmares, you name it, unhappy. I was walking around, just always this frown on my face. And there's this 1 week. Let's begin with Monday. I come into school, and Teacher Claire calls us to our classroom. It's a kindergarten classroom, so we were sitting on these tiny little kiddie chairs. And we start arguing again because she's giving me all these assignments. I don't understand it. And we're like, we're just arguing. Then something happened. Now, remember, guys, this is a kindergarten school. She's a kindergarten teacher. It starts escalating because she's also in a bad space, and it's escalating. And next thing I know, this is what I tell her. I say, Teacher Claire, do you want to take this outside? I actually said that. Those words came out of my mouth. All right, so I didn't speak to Teacher Claire for the rest of the week. Wednesday came around. I was walking from one class to the other, and then I see Dennis from a distance, and in my head, I make the story that I see him checking out Jenny. And of course, I was already jealous, but this made me green with jealousy. I started making all these stories in my head. Rah, 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 he likes her, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, I remember I ran home. I was ready to confront him. I opened the apartment door, came in, and I started going at him. And there was this huge door, this closet door right next to me. And just for more impact, you know what I did? I kicked that door. Guess what happened? Ooh, the door fell on me, to the ground, and broke. I didn't speak to Dennis for the rest of the week either after that. And then Friday came. How do you think I looked and felt on Friday? I arrived at school, sat down on my desk, and I saw this envelope for me that was left there by Mr. and Mrs. Kim. Inside was a new schedule with new classes that were piled on top of all the other classes I already had. At that stage, can you imagine how I felt? I already was so angry there. I had enough. I took my pencil, and I wanted to stab that paper. And I stabbed the paper. The only thing is, I didn't stab the paper, I stabbed my finger. And a piece of that pencil was stuck in my finger and then gushing blood everywhere. They had to rush me to the hospital. I was crying. Guess who brought me to the hospital? Jenny. Jenny was laughing. It was a horrible experience. The school, after all this happened, said, okay, you're going to have a day off next week. Just take it, relax. And I did. And you know what? I knew I needed something for the soul. So I went to visit some temples. And at the temples, I was just walking around, and there's this monk who noticed me, and he came to see me. And he kind of brought me off to the side, and I was like, okay. And then he says this. He looks at me really intently in my eyes. And he says, free your mind. Become the gatekeeper to your thoughts. Your thoughts are illusions. Free your mind. And then he just waltzed away. And I was kind of there with this thought in my head, what? Free my mind? I went back home that night, and it just really shook me to the core. What I suddenly realized is all these months that had just passed by, I was in a prison. I was literally in 4 walls, and I couldn't see anything past, like right here. Everything, I had lost clarity, I lost perspective. Meanwhile, freedom is what I seek. It's what I live for. And I also realized that all those horrible people, those toxic people I spoke about before, it wasn't them, it was me. Friends, at the end of the day, Sometimes, I won't lie, I'm back right here in this prison with those thoughts and reacting to all these thoughts and stories. But now that we've got this something clear, that this is where I want to be always, I make sure to always try to take that foot out of that space and dance my way, Gangnam Style, back to freedom. Thank you.